Hey, what's good? It's your boy Mixtape Moth, and today I wanted to hit y'all with my opinions on the epic IG live battle between hip hop icons DJ Premier and the RZA. Let's get to it. Let me start by saying that watching this battle last night made me the happiest and most content that I've been in months. I think when it's all said and done, I will definitely remember this as truly one of the really only good moments of this quarantine. So thank you RZA and DJ Premier for putting on for hip hop in a major way and representing the culture during such a critical time in everyone's lives. There were legends upon legends in attendance. I was honestly overwhelmed, but in a good way. The whole experience made me feel like a kid in a candy store, or perhaps like the first time traveling to New York City, to the South Bronx and Brooklyn back in the 90s. So the obvious question was, who was the decisive winner? Was there one? And of course, the political and diplomatic response would be that hip hop won. I know that sounds all nice and bipartisan, but in a sense, it's actually true. I know this battle might not have gone over the 200,000 viewer mark, but considering these guys aren't as well known to the casual rap listener as T-Pain or Lil Jon, I think the numbers show that enough people still actually care about hip hop in its traditional and classical sense. Now, if you were to ask me to give my own humble yet informed opinion on who won, I'm going to have to say that it was the RZA, but by narrow margins. There were plenty of moments that I felt like a child torn between two parents. But anyway, I decided to keep score of this battle on some real hip hop nerd shit. So now I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of each round. Round one, Liquid Swords versus A Million and One Questions. My first thoughts was that while Liquid Swords is one of the strongest openers on a Wu-Tang release, it didn't quite match the energy of a slapper like Preem's A Million and One Questions. This was a difficult one to decide, but ultimately I'm going to give this round to Primo for turning the heat up right off the bat. While Liquid Swords is somewhat of a neck snapper, it still is quite a subdued way to begin a battle. Round two, Bring the Pain versus Breaking the Rules. RZA's sound quality was messing up, but Bring the Pain was obviously a great way to redeem himself from round one. This track was made to be played in some sort of a battle or competitive endeavor. Clearly, MOP's Breaking the Rules stood no chance. It's not even one of the more interesting beats that DJ Premier has produced for MOP. So yeah, that was a clear RZA win for round two. Round three, Maria versus Mathematics. RZA, what were you thinking? This was easily the weakest track on Wu-Tang Forever, in my opinion. Sure, to some, ODB's verse might really move the crowd, but overall, this wasn't really the move that was needed. Way to turn the energy way down. Needless to say, Primo seized upon this opportunity by throwing on Mos Def's Mathematics, which resulted in the RZA being bodied significantly. Round four, Wu Gambino's versus The Enemy. Man, this was another tough one to choose. In my personal opinion, Wu Gambino's is more of a sophisticated and timeless beat, but The Enemy is one of Primo's most hardcore and gutter tracks, and it also featured the late great Big L, but ultimately this one was a draw. Round five, Run versus MC's Act Like They Don't Know. While MC's Act Like They Don't Know is easily one of the top 10 Primo beats of the 90s and one of KRS-One's most memorable singles, it didn't quite stand a chance against the explosive and brutal Run featuring RZA and Ghost. As a result, I'm choosing RZA as the winner here. Round six, Shame on A versus Real Hip Hop. Even though Shame on A has such infectious energy and served as the intro to the classic 36 Chambers, I think Primo's Das EFX beat is just better produced and has aged better over time. This might be an unpopular take, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Primo. Round seven, Protect Your Neck versus Live in Proof. This was another tough one. Group Homes Live in Proof might actually be more of a killer instrumental, but Protect Your Neck is an extreme slapper that has way more impact, unfortunately. So this one goes to the RZA. Round 8, Cold World versus Devil's Pie Remix. At first, I thought RZA would win no matter what Primo picked because Jizza and RZA were both in their prime on this track. But Primo, knowing the crowd and I guess pandering to it to some degree, chose the more commercial D'Angelo track. I think the crowd was more in favor of Primo here. Plus, when you watch the belly scene with the song playing, it makes it even more memorable. So Primo wins with the smart play. Round 9, METHOD Man versus Just to Get a Rep. This was an easy victory for RZA. This was the rap world's introduction to Method Man as an artist, and it is such a legendary and playful beat. This Gangstar song is a classic, but sounded rather stale and dated in comparison. Round 10, Motherless Child versus The Evils. Preem, you didn't need to go there. Motherless Child is some definitive RZA production. It's raw, haunting, and chilling. Plus Ray's opening lines, rich man, poor man, read the headlines. Still sends chills to this day, but The Evils is one of Primo's darker and more chilling beats as well. Plus, it's a Jay-Z record, and you know what that's going to do to the crowd. This was hard to choose, but I'm going to go with Primo because it had more range at the end of the day. Round 11, Verbal Intercourse versus Nas Is Like. While verbal intercourse seeps deep into your brain and soul and forever changes you as a human being, there is such a slapper-like quality to Nas Is Like that it could essentially turn out a whole room. This was brutal to pick from. The politically correct thing to do would be to say it's a draw, but if I want to keep it real and face reality, I think Primo wins narrowly. I still personally get more enjoyment out of Verbal Intercourse, however. Round 12, Buck 50 versus Remains. I'm sorry, but Primo is not even picking the real legendary Gangstar tracks. Plus, Buck 50 is such a vicious posse cut with a murderous beat. This was a clear RZA win, folks. Round 13, Ice Cream versus Unbelievable. This was another awkward and awful predicament to be in. Do you choose between one of the most iconic Wu-Tang beats of all time, or do you go with one of the most noticeable Biggie lines in Biggie Smalls is the illest? I mean, how do you exactly choose? I personally went with Ice Cream, but I could see a real strong argument being made for Unbelievable. Round 14, Brooklyn Zoo versus Come Clean. Okay, RZA did come off as a little bit of a scumbag with this round, and I wish he would have come clean because the word on the street and in the production credit world indicates that he didn't actually produce this track. Now, I guess he may have co-produced it or something like that, but still, when I hear this amazing beat, I can only think of True Master. Needless to say, Come Clean is one of Primo's most iconic beats, so this one goes to him without any hesitation. Round 15, Shimmy Shimmy Ya versus Kick in the Door. Newsflash, whenever you play Biggie, the crowd is pretty much going to be on your side. Shimmy Shimmy Ya isn't one of my personal favorites from ODB's debut album anyway. Kick in the Door is way more impactful and has a lot more accessibility, so Primo won this one hands down. Round 16, Long Kiss Goodnight versus Above the Clouds. RZA responded appropriately with the Biggie track and the crowd lost it. The energy was insane. However, Primo pulled a rabbit out of his hat with another one of his insane production pieces. While Above the Clouds might innately be more of a classic beat, I decided to go with the RZA because the energy made me either want to start a fight or perhaps more positively hit a PR on all my lifts in the gym. Well, I guess the home gym, that is. Round 17, Assassination Day versus New York State of Mind. Assassination Day is such an incredible RZA instrumental. It really has this fascinating medieval sound to it. But New York State of Mind is the first song on one of the most classic rap albums of all time, which is Illmatic. So I have to go with Primo. as New York State of Mind was way more influential on a much grander scale. Round 18, Criminology versus DWYCK. This was another tough round to decide on because Criminology contains one of the darkest and most murderous soul samples of all time, and Ray and Ghost were complete cold-blooded assassins as well. Yet this Gangstar record with Nice and Smooth is like the epitome of golden era hip-hop. It would be cited in the encyclopedia under the term boom bap. At the end of the day, I couldn't decide, so I declared it a draw. Round 19, Incarcerated Scarface's verse, Boom. This is truly one of the most well-known beats from the Purple Tape, and as good as Boom is, it just doesn't quite compete with this particular kind of RZA production. This was an easier round for me than others. Some might have Primo winning this, but it's just my opinion. Round 20, You're All I Need versus 10 Crack Commandments. Technically, this should have been the last round, but it ended up going another 8. Both songs were impactful in their own right. Method Man's song is played in weddings, while 10 Crack Commandments might be the most well-known non-commercial Biggie song in the average household. The lover of hardcore hip-hop in me decided to go with Primo, although this one was very hard to choose. Round 21, Cream vs. Mass Appeal. For me, this was a RZA win without any uncertainty due to Cream being ranked as one of the greatest hip-hop tracks of all time. I mean, it's up there with Nothing But a G-Thing and Shook Ones. While Mass Appeal is indeed the essence of New York in the mid-90s and a classic in its own right, Cream just seems to be much more meaningful to the culture overall. Round 22, Wu-Tang Ain't Nothing to Fuck With versus Crooklyn. This was a difficult pick. RZA was definitely not playing fair by unloading most of 36 Chambers on us. Obviously, this Wu track will get the party pretty live. On the other hand, the Crooklyn Dodgers track epitomizes Brooklyn in 1995. If you saw Spike Lee's Clockers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. However, I'm picking RZA because of the head bobbing and neck snapping appeal of the track. Round 23, Dark Fantasy vs. Classic. This was an easy victory for RZA, a Kanye track off one of his most praised albums. Plus, I was never really big into the Primo track personally, as I thought it was a bit stale and failed to live up to the hype considering the artists featured on it. Round 24, Triumph vs. Represent. Triumph clearly should have been played much earlier in the battle, but it's a RZA win either way. Sure, Represent is one of Primo's iciest beats of all time, but Triumph just has a wider reach across the culture overall, but it was a tough round to judge nonetheless. Round 25, Tanasia vs. Friend or Foe. RZA, what the fuck kind of bullshit move with this? He easily just handed the round over to Primo. Heck, Primo didn't have to do anything other than not leave the battle and not pick a questionable track. Friend or Foe, state your biz. Round 26, It's Yours versus So Ghetto. It's Yours was the summer anthem back in 1997. This still goes extremely hard to this day. While So Ghetto is obviously very dope and hard hitting, for me, it doesn't quite hold a candle to this RZA production. So I'm going to have to go with the RZA. Round 27, Gravel Pit versus Ain't No Other Man. I always cringed anytime I heard Gravel Pit. To me, it represented a lot of the problems that was going on with Wu releases in the 2000s. And while I can't say I ever really bumped this Christina Aguilera track, it definitely has aged better. So I'm going to say that Primo was the victor. Round 28, A Better Tomorrow versus I Gave You Power. RZA must have thought the battle was over at this point because his choice of the reflective cookout track seemed a little ill-advised. Primo literally smoked RZA at his own cookout with one of his most pensive beats of all time, I Gave You Power. So my final rating is RZA at 13, Primo at 12, and 3 tracks were a draw. So as you can see, it was really too close to call to declare a decisive winner, but I am giving the slight edge to RZA. I feel the RZA definitely came alive more in the second half of the battle, or I guess after the original 20 scheduled tracks, which is kind of humorous, and so RZA. I guess RZA does lose some points for throwing on Brooklyn Zoo since there's still ambiguity surrounding whether or not he actually produced it. Also, his sound quality was very poor at times. Now, I think he was having some technical difficulties, but still, it created a lull in the battle. As far as Primo's performance, his knack for counterpunching was exceptional. Now, obviously, there tends to be an inherent advantage in going second, but his DJ ear and his ability to not only read the audience, but to also be able to rock the crowd is second to none. Let me know your thoughts on this battle in the comment section below. Who did you have as the winner? What were some of your favorite moments? And were there any tracks that weren't included that you thought maybe they were holding back on? It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing off. As always, peace and blessings. RZA, Primo, epic battle. Hip hop won.